Okay, so we'll be starting this. So today morning we went over different. I hope my screen is visible and I'm audible, right? So there's no disturbance with that. Is my screen visible? Okay. Yeah, I'll continue with the class and thank you. So today morning, you guys could recall that we went through different stuff such as how to create a function, how a function is created, how the declaration takes place, and we also saw that different ways of function that different ways of we could just give me one second. Different ways that we could declare a function, what are the variations of function. We saw arrow function, then we saw IIIFP, then we saw normal function declaration, how these functions are executed as such. Now we'll be moving with a little bit into the background of how a function runs in the backend, behind the screens, how this function would be executed, or where exactly this function will move back and forth and as such. So I'll be just taking away this thing. Okay, so we'll just I'll declare a random function. I'll just take two, let's take name. I'll just use let name is equals to Tom, uh, age. Age is 25 or something. Oops, 25. And person ID. Okay. Okay, so earlier classes, maybe in the first or second class, we saw that whenever we create a function, there will be something called as two things. That is, one is code execution phase, and there will be memory creation phase, and we looked at how scopes work and everything like that, right? So that was the behind the scenes. Whenever you declare a variable or something, those things were happening. Okay, and if you guys can recall, let me start the server so I could go in depth and show you how it works. Just I could give you a recap kind of thing. Yes. Okay. Yeah. Um, so here we'll be going to sources. If I'm right. Then where sources, then we'll go to open file, then we'll open script.js. Okay, and these are the normal things. And last time, if you guys remember, we put a one more keyword over here to debug this thing. Okay, and then refresh this code. Okay, so we saw that debugger has paused, and we saw that, like, as soon as we come to the scope over here, we could see that there's something called a script, and we have the age, name, person, and object, and, this was created, and everything was going on. Okay, today we'll be going over something called as execution context. Okay, so what is this execution context? This is basically referring to, you guys know what is a context is nothing but it is just referring to the name or the variables that you have put in the a space, or a scope, you could call it. Scope, you could call that. Okay, so during this, what happens is, whenever you try to put those kind of information, and we could see that, whenever I create this name, age, and person object, it will be inside that, right? It will be inside name, and, those memory creation phase will be created, and then as such information will also take place. And when we move back to the script thing, and we, if I am right, like in the global, let's see, and I created a person, right? A B C D F G H I. Oh, then we have all. Yeah. So you could see that I created a person ID, right? So you could see in the global stack we have person ID, and here just everything gets listed in alphabetical order. Last time I wanted to show you this, but unfortunately, even I was not able to find where it was. But then I observed that these things are listed in alphabetical order. I forgot that. So now I recall, and like we could see that, whenever I have let, or if I put a constant over here, let's say I put a constant and I save it, and I refresh this page. Okay, so we could see whenever we refresh and we do all these kind of stuff, we could see that, age would be declared, and a person and object, and these two things take, and whenever I put a ending to the var object, the person, it will be down here. So whenever it will be alphabetical order, so we could see the person ID being over here, and we also know it is undefined right now because we are not executed out there, and there's nothing assigned out there. Okay, just to avoid the scrolling, I'll just put a out here, a person ID. So not here, my bad, in the code execution. Okay, so a, and we'll be saving this, and I'll close it and refresh it. Okay, so we could see that it has been moved up. I've just put A so that it's easier for me to find, and I don't have to go all the way to B. So I just put that. Okay, so we could see that it is undefined, and as soon as I go to the next steps, we could see each line getting executed, and the variables, the values being assigned, and you could see the name had top now, and as we move on, person ID will be assigned, if as soon as I execute this, and you could see the global object got refreshed and it was executed, and we saw even the so person object getting whatever the values we have put. Okay, and similar to this, even functions will be, they are also, when you assign, and they will have the function name, and they will be, even they will be reference to an object, and they will be stored. Okay, and whenever you store a function, we could see that, I'll put a just some say hello, or just say just hello world function, the basic one. Okay, I'm just gonna put log out here. Say, hello. Okay, and as soon as I put this, okay, I'll just again, I don't want to go all the way down. I'll just put a over here, so I'm not going all the way down here. Okay, so here we could see that, okay, our personality, where did the function go? Yeah, we could see the function is also declared over here, and if I'll just hover over this, yeah, you could see, and I don't know whether it's visible or not. You could see the function, the whole code is written. Are you guys able to see that? Can you guys give me a thumbs up if you're able to see it, in the function being hovered, in a small box? Is it visible for you guys when I hovered over there? Can you give me a thumbs up? Okay, thank you. Yeah. So we could see, like, whenever we go and hover over here a little bit, okay, we could see the function has been declared. So, okay. So one thing that would come to your brain is, like, whenever we went through, or whenever, like, if you brainstorm, you one question that arises would be, like, whenever we have name, age, and we are trying to declare a variable, like, such as that constant and bar, we are seeing that, like, it's only getting assigned. So whenever the values that we are assigning to it, it's only getting assigned after we execute that statement. And if you guys can recall, and if we see the debugger, and I'll put just one more so you guys have idea where it is exactly right now. It has not even, like, executed one statement of JavaScript, but it also knows where, like, we if we see this whole function, it already knows, like, it's not taking any arguments. Then we can it is called, and we have a prototype, and we have given the name, and even the whole function, whatever it is there, like where I'm logging the code, the whole function has been created, and it is space for it is already created, the code is already in there, okay. And whereas if we come back to the age, name, and person object, we could see that all of them are value unavailable, or in other words, it is undefined, okay. So if you look at this um, person ID, right, we could see it is undefined. But as soon as we execute line by line, we are seeing the values being assigned. But whereas with the function, the working will be a little bit different. Okay, the whatever we saw memory creation phase and execution phase, it will be behaving a little bit different, and I'll through the diagrams I'll make you understand. But right now, just understand the context that before, whenever we create this function, right? So whenever we have a function that has been created, it will have its own, like, context. Okay, it is called local context, and it will be having its own space. So last time, I'll show you right now with the diagrams of how this is working, and, like, what is the difference between global context, local context. Okay, just hang with me, because this is a little bit of a theoretical concept, and today's Sunday, you might feel a bit sleepy, but still try to hang on and, like, understand. And, like, we have last time we discussed why this is rotating and why it's still in loading and all those things we have discussed in the last class. But right now, I'll be concentrating on more how this works. Okay, so let's just take this whole code, right? So we'll just take this whole JavaScript code and try to imagine it in your brain. And, like, of course, there won't be boxes and there'll be coding, but just try to imagine how it works. And now, just give me 1 second. So moving back to this thing, I'll just be using Canvas. Okay. That's pretty good. Okay, let's say, like, this, consider this whole yellow block that you're looking at right now. It is the global execution phase. Okay, and whatever you see, like, last class we discussed, there will be two phases, right? So there'll be one phase that will be taking care of memory memory creation. Okay, and we'll be having one more that takes care of memory creation phase. Just hang on with me by the time I get this diagram done. Try to do it as soon as possible. So we will be having our memory creation phase. So let's see if we can find creation, and here we will be having the execution. Okay, so we did discuss that, like, if I have any during memory execution phase, I'll just put one more box out here so it's easier for you to understand. Let's see, let's just put here or something. Okay, and I think let me just copy paste the code that we got over here. I have name, okay, and I have all these things. Okay, just increase. Okay, so I'll just duplicate this, not this one. I'll get this to memory infusion phase. Fine. Okay, and you could see that, like, first thing that will be we have discussed in the last class too, that, like, in the first phase there will be memory creation phase where you'll be creating all this memory, and, like, when you take let constant or var or, like, other kind of information, then there'll be just, like, declared over there, and there'll be undefined. So as soon as each of the line gets executed one by one, we could see, like, variables would be assigned, and we also saw this. Okay, but whereas with functions it would be working a little bit different. Okay, so what would happen with function is, as soon as you have a function, the whole code, whenever you create it, it will be just going and sitting right here without any, like, disturbance or anything. The whole function, like, however you put it, so it will be the function would be taken. Okay, and we'll just select this. Okay, with hello world, the function name will be created. Okay, and like as we could see here, this will be created and it will be stored here. Okay. Hello. And we could see, like, whenever, like, as we saw in the debugger too, that as soon as a function is created, it will be taken to the global, and we could see, like, in the whole function code will be executed. But when do we have this, like, when do we the function will get executed or anything like that? As soon as we call this function. Okay, let's say right now we also saw, like, we could call this function wherever we want. There's no necessary, like, determine, like, we have to call the function after or before, or it doesn't matter, because whenever you call this code, let's say I'll just call this node script.js. Okay, so whenever you call this, we could see that the function is called without, irrespective of wherever it is called, because the same thing is happening in the background. Because in the memory creation phase, okay, let me just let's do this. Okay, that's good. Okay, so whenever we saw that in memory creation phase, the function is already executed. Like, we could already see that, like, whatever the function code is there, it is already stored in the memory creation phase. And in the execution phase, only this, like, as soon as this function is being called, okay, the function, whatever we call hello world, a hello world, this function is being called, only this function is being called, and we could see that the function getting executed. And so I think someone okay. And function being executed, and function is running without any problem. Okay, so this is hence the we could also say that whenever we create a function, what happens is, here we saw that it didn't go and sit down in the script. It didn't go and sit in the local scope. Rather, it went to the global execution phase and it sat there. So whenever you declare a function, what happens is it gets a global execution. It goes and sits in the global scope. The function code and the function name, everything will be sitting. Like you could see other functions also doing the same thing. We will go just go over this. Like there's many functions if you scroll down, and if you get some free time, you could go over it's not necessary that you should know all these functions. It's just they're there, and during different scenarios you'll be stumbling upon different function that you need to use, and you'll also use some of the function that is given here in your the practice JavaScript session. But and what I'm trying to say is, whenever you create a function, this will be going and sitting in the global execution phase, and it will be executed over there. And we also saw that in our last class, whenever I try to print let's say this, we saw in the last class, whenever I try to print this statement out here, it was you could see that a separate object of global with you could see over here, it is created in the global scope, and this was happening. So whenever this was happening, we could see that this was created in the global base, and it had own it had some features. It has fetch method, performance, then it has structured clone, and other kind of properties or methods that we could see over here. We'll go over the what is this getter and all this, but this is what was happening. Okay, so we could see that these are the things that was created. So what is happening? Why did whenever I try to do the same thing, okay, outside, whenever I try to log it, uh, outside the function, whenever I do this, we could see nothing. Okay, whenever we last class we saw that it was an empty, if you see all the way down here, it is empty, empty object, there's nothing there. Whereas if we come back to the browser, we could see that rather than empty, it was giving us the window object, right? So what is happening? Why is this this context is creating, what is this word? So here, if I do the same thing, okay, if I do the logging of the function, same thing, and if I say console dot log of what is it, a hello world. Okay, and I try to do this, we could see the functions also creating, and we'll go over why it is undefined and everything like that. But you could see that it is creating, and the global context is being referred, and whenever we try to do this, and it will the this object is created. Okay, so we moving back to the diagram, what is happening is, whenever I try to create this hello world function, what is happening is, the whole this whatever the global constitution we saw over here, this whole thing, the memory creation phase and memory, the whole block, I'll just duplicate it. Okay, and I'll make it short. Let me just rewrite this. I think. So this phase is getting created for hello world itself. Okay, let me just expand this a little bit, and let me expand this a little bit. Uh, Advance this a bit. So. Okay, this is we could say the local context. Okay, you guys, I think you guys are getting an idea. What is happening over here is, This is the global context, right? So this is the whole JavaScript code, and for the whole JavaScript code, execution context or execution phase has been execution context is being created, where we have a memory creation phase, and right now whatever the code that we've written outside the function, those things are getting executed. And as soon as we move to the execution phase, we could see that these things were created. And we could also see that for hello world, it will be having its own small context that has been created. So we could see that a small thing was also created for the hello world itself, where it will be having its own context. Okay, so this is what we are referencing over here. Just put it, okay. uh, 55. Hello, hello world, local execution context. Okay. And I'm trying to draw a line and I don't know how to do it. So I'm just trying to get this. Okay, I think that was better. So you could see that whenever we try to create this, the local hello world's local context, basically the global context over here, the execution phase is getting created for the hello world itself. And we could see a small a global context being local context being created for only to execute hello world. And whatever the memory creation phase won't be the same. Rather, right now it will be empty because we don't have any object that is referencing to that. Let me just zoom in a bit. Okay, and okay, this is very being trained. Okay, okay. So if I zoom in a bit, so we could see whatever is inside this, those things will be taken out. Let me just delete this. I think I need to ungroup it or something. Yeah, ungroup it. Okay, now it is there. Okay, let me just reduce this. Okay, and we'll get it right here. Okay, expand. So it will the hello world whatever we saw, it will be having its own memory creation phase, and its own execution phase. Okay, so whenever it if there's any variables or something that has been declared in the execution phase itself, and we have some code that has been executed, and it will have its own own things. Okay, so let's say I declare some kind of variable saying that I let's say I have arrow, then we have the word that we have to print, logging log word or something such that. Okay, and it will be undefined, just exactly how we saw in the global context. The same thing will happening, and as soon as we move on to the the execution phase, we could see the log word would be having some value, whatever value we provide. Let's say we say hello world. Okay, so we just give hello over there, and it will be having the same thing. Okay, so if imagine we call one more function. Okay, in the hello world we call one more function. Okay, some other function being called inside the hello function will be having the similar thing. It will be having the local context that has been created, and in the execution phase you'll have one more small diagram over here which is doing the same thing. Okay, so whenever we have this will be global context, so this whole thing will be under a global context. Okay, this is the global context, and whatever the function that you create, each of them will be having their own little they'll be having their own small local context, you could call refer or something like that. So they'll be having their I'm not able to say it, but you guys are getting an idea. So they'll be having their own like model, they will be having their own context or local execution context that will be taking place. And if you create, if they imagine, we saw in the morning classes that we created function 1 and function 2, and inside that again will be, inside this there will be one more function that has been coined, and it will be having its own local context where it will be having again division, where it will be having memory creation phase and execution phase. And in parallel, if I have not only hello world and I have other functions, okay, each of the functions will be creating their own. And if there's nested, then there will be nested execution context that will be created. Okay. And we could see this happening. Okay, let's say I'll move back to my browser, and here I have hello world function. And let's say I told you guys that there'll be a let, or let's take constant, and I'll be taking some log word that we saw in earlier. Okay, then I have a log word, then we have I'm just gonna assign something like hello to it. Okay, and I'll be moving back to sources. Okay, so please, hello world, I'll call it over here. Okay, so console log this, and I'll just call the hello world function. So you guys, okay, it has been called over here. So let me just refresh this page. Okay, so the hello world has been called. Okay, so just now pay attention of how the, line by line, how the code is being executed, and also pay attention to the scoreboard here, how it is working and all that stuff. So I'll just move one step forward, and you could see that, now we moved on to the second line where we are going through the name, and right now the value of name is undefined, or there's no value that has been provided yet. And now the value is assigned, but when we as soon as we encounter the hello world being called or invoked, so what will happen is the goal stack will move, and it will move on to the function execution. Okay. Now, right now, what happened was our whole JavaScript code, whatever was running, it was in the global context. It was executing the global execution context, and it was the memory creation phase was going on, and we have name, and name got something, and rest of the things didn't get anything yet. So all of these are still undefined, and we saw that, right? So all of the they are still undefined because we call the hello world function. Okay, don't get confused, all these are still undefined. Okay. And we could see that, as soon as we executed hello world function, what will happen is a whole, local context of this function would be created. And how would we know? Right now I'm showing you diagram so you'd have an idea, but in the background, what will be happening is we could see, as soon as I enter this, you could see that there's a small this being created. You could see a variable that I have declared in it. It will be having unvaluable, and it will be created. So this object, so whenever I try to log this over here, right? So try to log this, and we could see the same thing being happen. Okay, so I'll just print this one too, so you guys are getting an idea. So here you could see the same thing is being taken place. This has been executed, and we are seeing all those things, and what are the common methods. And here we could also see that this window object, wherever we're trying to call this function, it has created its own local context. Earlier we saw that whenever we put this console.log this, it was just referencing to the whole execution phase or global execution phase. But whenever I try to log it, the main difference that we can see is, I'm trying to log this over here, and it's the same being logged up and down, right? So whenever I try to log over here, you could see that nothing's happening. Okay, so let me do this after the function so you guys are getting a better idea. So we could see that, this being called inside is creating an object, whereas outside it is not doing the same thing. And if I take this hello world out, because the function is being called, and each line by line the code is being executed, and we could see that, a whole local context is getting created. And if I do the drop down for this, we could see there's again methods or anything that has been created in the global reference. You are even able to access that. But here we could see, and if I create multiple things, let's just, I'll just copy this just so we could know how this is working. I'll just copy and paste it. Okay, the underline is happening because I have not used it. Okay, don't worry about the dotted lines. Okay, and I'll just take out this and rerun it again. Okay, and I'll move a little bit further. Okay, so here we could see the same thing happening, right? So name was declared, and we could see that again. I used, for name, I've used, I've not used names inside this, but we could see that, as soon as this function gets, called, and we'll move on to the thing, and we could see that the same thing, the person ID, log word, and, person object, all of this were created. And you could also see the person ID is also listed over here, even though it was what, it is also listed over here because it is still just trying to access whatever is in the global state. Okay, and it is coming back here, and this window was created, and the person ID, log word, and same thing will happen. So if I move forward, right, so I'll go a little bit forward again, hello is getting assigned, and the values are getting assigned, and the cherry, you just pay attention, here we are trying to assign, log word has some value, and this person ID has some value, and object has some value. We could see the values are getting only assigned in this person. So this meaning local execution context of the function itself, not the whole JavaScript code. And we could see the same thing. We have used the same person ID, same log word, person object, and stuff, the other same variable name and the values. But here we could see nothing is being assigned. Okay, nothing, a person object has nothing, no value has been assigned to it, and we could see it has no the value is still undefined. So here we could observe that, what we saw in the diagram, we could even observe that in the code, that right now only this is being executed. So what happened was, it was memory was created, everything ran, and since it has not even encountered other stuff, other values over here. Let me just take this. So it has not encountered any other things except the hello world. So what happens, as soon as it encountered the hello world, it created a small context for itself, which is called as local execution phase. And whatever the memory, whatever the things that we have created in it, then it will go and sit inside this memory creation. Okay. So here I have log word, but we have other things over there. I think we have, yeah, we had log word. Okay, log world, and the log world had hello, but I think yeah, I put the same thing. Okay, over here I just have a different thing, and I just have a capital her or something like that. So the same thing is happening. So as soon as we saw the execution phase and stuff like that, we could see the same thing, the local context has been created, and this whole thing is running again. So, and whenever you have a nested or something like that, it will be keep on repeating. This will be coming back and again, and we could see the nested function taking place. Okay, so here we could see what I'm trying to say is, whenever we create a function, its own context is being created, and the whole thing is working. Okay, and we could also observe one more thing that is called as call stack. Let me see if I can find it over here. I'll just close it right now over here. Scope, I'll close it. And we could see there's something called as call stack, and it is referencing to the function that is currently running right now, or whatever the context it is referring to. Okay, imagine that I didn't have it. Okay, I'll just complete, and I'll try to get out of the function, and you could see the whole thing, we could see the whole hello world, it has moved, and there's another, it moved to the line 3, and it is executing that. And even we could see the scope, we could see that this has been disappeared. Okay, let's just say I go a little bit forward, and I'm out of the function now, so I'll be getting out of the function. And we could see that, the whole thing is gone, we don't have anything local this, and we have the whole thing has been erased, and it is moving back to the code line again, and it is age 25 is happening, and we could see that, the variables are being assigned. But we could see, and even in the call stack, there's nothing out here because call stack has been cleared. So anonymous is trying to refer to global context. So whatever we saw the global context, it is referring to that. And whenever we have functions or methods that we are trying to run, the call stack will be stacked upon. And you guys have seen, how it works. First one will be last out, and the same methodology will be running over here too. The same, if you say, data structure will be used over here, and the stack will be executing as per, there will be a new method popping in and popping out, and those things will be taking place similarly. And we could see, if I move back to the same thing, and if I come back over here, we could see, as soon as I move from one line to another, so this will be happening, and we could see, okay, don't worry about that, that's just got refers to something else, but you don't have to worry about that. We could see, each line by line getting executed. And as soon as we got to the phase where we are encountering a function, just pay attention to what is happening to call stack. As soon as we get over here, so we could see the call stack has the stack, the stack has inserted, so a function has been inserted to call stack right here. And we could also see a local context was created, and we could see, this whole happening behind the scene, we couldn't see, but these are things that being taking place. And we could also see, in the call stack where exactly my line is being executed. We could see that, on line number 13 in the function hello world, where it is being executed and it is running. Okay, and if I move one step further, each of the values that we are there, that will be getting assigned one by one. And there will be, as soon as we got out of this object, even the object was created, it was assigned. And pay attention to what happens as soon as we reach at the line number 20, where it is the end of the code. So we could see that line number 20 is the end of the function. Okay, so we could see, and as soon as I exit this now, as soon as I encounter a empty bracket, we could see that, we are still in the hello world, and it is saying return value undefined. That means the function is not defined, returning anything, or right now it has nothing that has been written. So hence it will be undefined, and we could see that as soon as we if you guys are observing, so as soon as we are going over each of these things, we could also see that log word is getting assigned with hello, and person id. So each of the values were being assigned, okay. And we could also, if I want to call this, this dot, if I call something, it will be executed, and those things will be you could, even if you're aware of it, these values are assigned, and they're having values of whatever you provided, and other information will be all be stored, and this function will be getting executed. And as soon as we exit, the line wherever it encounters the empty, empty brackets, or wherever it's stopping, and we get out of it, the whole stack will be created, and the local context will be taken out from the global context, and it won't be referred again until the function has been executed. So this is how in the background a function will be executed and how it will be done. Okay. So if I have a nested function, let's say I have a nested function here. Okay. Inside that I have a function which is saying logging, which is saying that today is a great day, and inside that I'll have one more function. Can I have the hello world? And now capacity parameters in here, and so is good, and have this be hello world, and I'm calling this, and inside that I'll be calling once again be hello world. And you guys know, right? If I call the function outside, it won't work, because the scoping will be there, and the be hello world is only accessible inside this bracket. It can't be called outside. Hence, I'm doing that. But this time you should be knowing that. Okay, so here we could see, just pay attention to the call stack and also the script over here. Okay, and I'll be moving one by one, and we could see that hello world has been declared, and as soon as it's called, it is going to the call stack is being moved to hello world, and the scope was created, and we'll be moving further, and here we don't have anything. So now the b hello world is being called. Okay, so here you could see the call step has been moved, and this local context is no more referencing to the local context of the hello world. Now it is referring to the local context of be hello world. Okay, just so let me just create a variable out here, so you guys are getting more idea of how it is working. A hello world variable, and I'll just assign one. I could just put a number in there. Okay, and I'll take this, copy it here, and make it yellow. Okay. Let's refresh the page. Okay, and we moved to hello world, and we could see, as soon as I got in there, we have a function. You could see that, I told you, right. So now it is under memory execution phase, that it, the whole local context was created, and it is under memory execution phase, and we declared a value named a hello world variable, and we have a function called b hello world, and the whole thing is taking place, and we could see, here the function is again behaving the same way. Earlier we saw in the global, we saw that, the same similar pattern taking place, where we have a function was created, and the whole code was copied, the whole thing is taking place again over here in the function. The same thing is taking place, and if I move one line further, where I'm just logging, and this will be logged, and we saw that, it didn't care about it, just skipped, it didn't execute the function hello world unless we have called it, and it is quite similar, and you guys know that, without calling it won't be executed, right. So, and here be hello world, now we'll be walking into the context. Okay, and so here, as soon as you look at the call stack, what is happening is, first, all the way in the bottom, we have anonymous, that is referencing to okay. So here you could see, you can also navigate through this, and we could see where even I didn't know this today, even I discovered that. Okay, that's cool. Okay, so moving back to the code part. So okay, uh, that's cool. Okay, so we hello world, and we could see the, objects is getting reference, and we could see, as soon as I move further, now we have only be hello world. Okay, So we could see that this value is there, and we could see that be hello world was value was taken, and other values are getting assigned, and the logging is taking place, and as such, as soon as I get to the end of the end brackets, we could see the same pattern repeating. Okay, so and we'll be moving over here, and it is calling, and it will be getting out of the function. Okay, so this is how, if I have any nested functions or something like that, this is how the context will be created, and this is how it will run. Okay, and let's just say, instead of nesting function or any such things, I have a simple so I'll be moving over here, and we have a hello world, and we have variable created, then we have a log. And what I'll do over here is I'll just call the hello world here. A hello world, variable, the function itself. And for you guys to understand, I'll just take this off and get this over here. And we'll be taking this out. Okay, and I'll be calling this once again. Let me take out this apartment photo, and maybe inside. Okay, so here, as you guys saw, I'll be moving to the name where it will be hello world will be called, and we could see, I'm hello world context was moved, and now there'll be a log, and I'll be moving outside, then I'll there'll be hello world is called again, now it will call back the hello world, and we could see what happened. Why did we get out of there? I think it got reference to calls away. What happened? That's it. How defined. How that happened? We could see, the same thing taking place. Let me just refresh the page. The world was created, and we'll call it inside as well, and I will call this. Okay, and that's weird. Why is that happening? Okay, so what I was trying to prove over here is, whenever you have a call stack, and I don't know why this is happening. Let me just call this one. Call that second. Calling this function over here, it is right here. And we could see, okay, let me get back to this. Okay, so whenever we have a function that is being created, again the same stack will be created, and we could see, as soon as I am going to call this. Okay, and we have again one more thing that has been called, and I don't know why this happening. I will see this again and again. I think I defined it in a different way. What's happening? Oh, I have oh here, no bad. Okay, that's what happened. Oh, I didn't create a hey hello world. I created a hey hello world. Hence, it was not executing. I think it was a typo. And now it makes sense why it was not running. Okay, let's see what I did. Okay, my bad, guys. I did a mistake over there. Okay, now I should run properly. Okay, yeah. To this, and then we go hello world, and okay. Yeah, now it is working as I expected it to. Okay, so here we could see, as soon as I called the hello world again inside the function, so we could saw. Let me just refresh it. I was just running the code and making sure it was run. Okay, so and there was a typo. Nothing else was wrong. So here we'll be moving out inside, and we'll be creating in the, now it's running in the global context. Okay, and as soon as we got to the hello world, we could see that calls are getting stacked, and we have a hello world. It moved to the hello world, and we have a scope that has been created, and there was also execution phase that is taking place, and the whole variable is getting, and whenever I call it again, right, so whenever this is happening, and the stack gets on, it will keep on incrementing. So we could see, the whole call stack getting increment, it will be just embedding in there, it will be stacked upon, each of the function will be coming across, and it will be running. So it will run until your a certain number of times. Let me just take this out and refresh it. And yeah, wait, I'm not- for some breakpoint. Okay, open script.js, take out the breakpoint, take this out, refresh it. Okay, and if I move back to the console, right, you could see like I think the you guys can see the number being incremented over here. It goes forever, like until I don't know even the number, the exact number, but what is happening over here is the recursion is taking place. That means the function is being called up by itself, and we could like the whole the call stack is getting incremented and it is moving on. And at certain phase, what happens is they will reach a limit and it will give okay, there you go. So what happened? We could see over here, and as soon as we saw this, we could see uncaught range error. Maximum call stack size has exceeded. So if you guys have did like some coding in like in your class, and we could see that we had some few things that is stack overflowed or stack like when you try to keep on pushing an element beyond the stack size, you would be having something called as stack overload. And you guys have come across that, right? So you guys know the term stack overflow and stack not like it was not full, and you're trying to access pop an element when there is no element in the stack. You guys know about those data structures? Yeah. So yeah, thank you for that. So the same thing will be happening over here. So, okay, so whenever we have a call stack, what is happening is we saw in the sources itself. I'll put a debugger over here. I'll just get back to this, and I'll just refresh the page again. We could see like we saw a call stack over here. Even we have a stack over here, the same similarity, the similar function will be taking place, and there will be limit for everything. Like as soon as this like the function, the stack will be filled, you can't execute it anymore. Okay, and it is very important, so you're paying attention to this call stack, because in the future you might be calling some other functions where they're referring to each other functions, and you have to also make sure that you're within the stack limit. Okay, and like, of course it's very rare that you're reaching a stack limit. Rather, if you do an error or something like that, then only you'll be meeting the like, the stack limit. But usually it doesn't happen. Or if you're done any error, like I've showed you right now, like we saw that like it will be executed several times, and after it reached somewhere around, if I'm right, somewhere around 9,000, what happened was so we saw that like this thing, whenever it reaches like limit, we saw that like the call stack overflow will be taking place. And it is also important like you pay attention to this, because if you're writing a web page or something, and if you're coming across this page, and like there's the like chances that you're leading to like we could see that like, it will also show where the error is taking place. And we could see if I hover over this, and if I let me show you, I think somewhere over here it will show me what mistake I've done. Okay, we could see I don't know, but usually like if I hover over this or something like that, it will show what is happening or what is the error with that. And we could see over here it is saying like hello world stack has been overflowed or something like that. And this is what will be happening. So inside that, like if you take it diagrammatically, or like if you want to imagine what happens is like inside this, so we saw that like around if I'm right, the number was like 10,000 times. Okay, so each like for every like context or recursion that is taking place, like again and again, this yellow box that you're looking, the whole thing will be created again in the execution phase. And 10,000 times you could like imagine it in a three dimension, it is going inside 3,000 times, or how many ever thousand times it was there over there, 8,000 times it is going deeper in. And for each execution function, like for each function that you're executing, context will be created and will be going deeper inside, and smaller functions will be created. And as soon as you clear a function, right, so let's say that I'm not calling a function over here, and I have provided like a written statement. And guys, one more thing, it is a common mistake that like I hope you guys don't make it, but it is a common mistake not to write a written statement, like any instruction after a written statement, because that code won't be executed and it is unreachable. And by this time you should know that. But it is a common mistake that takes place, and you've written a code after a written statement, you're expecting it to run. It won't happen. But just know that like usually what happens is like when you have function and the call stack taking place. Let me have the debugger, so I will be coming across this thing once again. So refresh this page. Okay, and we're moving a bit forward. So what happens is, as soon as I think the okay, I think I moved a bit faster. So the function, like as soon as we see here, like the return statement return valued hello. So what happens? There's two cases when a function will be getting out. So one is whether when it will be encountering or stumbling upon the closing brackets, or when it has written. Okay, so there's some situations where in the code you would even observe, like, when you're trying to code, there will be situations where you need to return way before the function ends. So like there will be different scenarios. I don't want to get into logic of it right now, but I hope you're getting the context. So here, what happens is, like, as soon as this is done, okay. So whenever this whole thing happens, the call stack will be cleared one after another, and it will be moving on to the next, whatever the code that has been there, and it will be executing that. So did you guys get an idea of how, like, what I'm talking, the local context and, like, global context, and how the call stack is working? Are you getting the grip of it? Okay. So this is how it works. Okay, then we have, it's 8:11 right now. Okay, thank you. So just take 5 minutes break, because again I need to charge the laptop and get my charger. So just take like 5 minutes break. Now it's like 12. I'll be coming back at like again 12. So I'll be coming here at 17. So we'll just pause the class for 5 minutes, because next we have a smaller thing that is called document object model, and we'll be going over that. Okay, this is very important topic, and if you guys didn't understand what I said, make sure you go and, like, any YouTube source material. Like, right now I'm following Hitesh Chaudhary and the Pro Coder. These two are really good in what they're explaining. I would ask you to go and go through the material again, but they teach in depth. But make sure you're learning what are, like, these JavaScript. It is very important. So as soon as you learn any, like, further tech stack, like such as you want to learn Angular, JS, like, React, any front end technologies, as like even if you go to Node.js, Express.js, those kind of things, you should know JavaScript. Without JavaScript, you can't understand those stuff. So make sure you're learning it through other materials if you're not able to understand over here. Okay, let's just take 5 minutes break for now. I'll be resuming the class from 17 to 8:17. So, okay, just take a few minutes break. That's what I'm saying. This generation. I don't care. As though you were in Dubai. I said 5 minutes, not half an hour. Few minutes, that's it. Okay. Moving back to the concept of today's, the last concept. Mm, okay, so today we'll be going over one more thing that is called as document object model. Okay, so you guys are aware of there's two things. One is browser object model, and you guys will study that. That's not very relevant for JavaScript right now, but you should know that. Try to do your own research and learn that. But document object model is quite necessary, and you should also know how why you should know this is this whole referencing concept. Hello, huh? ಲಘು ನೀನೇನು ಕೇಳಿಸ್ಕೊಂತಿದ್ಯಾ ಅದನ್ನ? ನೀನೇನ್ ಕೇಳಿಸ್ಕೊಂತಿದ್ ನೀನ್ ಯಾರು ಮೀಟ್ ಒಳಗಡೆ ಯಾರು ಬಿಟ್ರು ನಿನ್ನ? ಅಲ್ಲ ನೀನ್ ಕ್ಲಾಸ್ ಒಳಗಡೆ ಹೆಂಗ್ ಬಂದೆ ಅದ್ ನಾನ್ ಕೇಳ್ತಿರೋದು. ಯಾರ ಜೊತೆ ಬಂದಿದ್ದೆ ನೀನ್ ಮೀಟಿಗೆ? ಯಾರು ನಿನ್ ಮೀಟ್ ಒಳಗಡೆ ಹೆಂಗೋ ಆಕ್ಸೆಸ್ ಸಿಕ್ತು? ಹೆಂಗ್ ಬಂದೆ ಮೀಟ್ ಒಳಗಡೆ ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಆಫ್ ಆಲ್ ನೀನು? ನೀನ್ ಹೆಂಗ್ ಬಂದೆ ಅದನ್ನ ಹೇಳ ನಂಗೆ. ಯಾರ್ ಜೂನಿಯರ್ಸ್ ಕಳ್ಸಿದ್ರಾ? ಮತ್ತೆ ಮೀಟ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಇದೆಯಾ ನೀನು? ಭಾಸ್ಕರ್ ಇಲ್ಲ, ಯಾರೋ ಬೇರೆ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ, ನೀನ್ ಇಲ್ವೇ ಇಲ್ಲ ಭಾಸ್ಕರ್ ಇಲ್ಲಿ. ಎಲ್ಲಿದೆ ಇಲ್ಲಿಲ್ಲ. ಸರಿ ಆಯ್ತು, ಬಾಯ್ ಬಾಯ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಬರ್ತೀನಿ ನೋಡಿ. ಮಾಡ್ಸ್ಕೊ, ಬೇರೆ ಕೆಲಸ ನೋಡು. ಕ್ಲಾಸ್ ಯಾರಿಗೆ ಕೇಳ್ತಿದ್ದೀನಿ, ನಿನಗೆ ಗೊತ್ತು ತಾನೇ ಇವೆಲ್ಲ, ಮುಚ್ಕೊಂಡು ಹೋಗು. ಬಾಯ್ ಬಾಯ್ ಆಯ್ತು. Sorry, I got a call and I had to go. So we'll be moving back to the code. So you guys know what is a document? What I'm trying to reference. Have you guys come across document object model? So whatever you know, try to put the response, and I'll be teaching that too. We'll be going. What do you guys think? Why do we need DOM? With respect to web development, what is the properties of it? What do you know about DOM? Why do we need it? What's the necessity to learn that? Okay, try to respond. Okay. Guys, I told you already. If it is an interactive session, it would be really fun. So make sure you're putting your answers to. Okay, there's like 70 students, and only three of you responded. So why do you need DOM? If you don't know, at least put we don't know yet, or if you know the answers, at least put something out there in the text box. I would appreciate if everyone is responding to. Yeah, that's fine. If you don't know, you could just put I don't know. If you know something about it, you could tell me what you know about DOM and why do we need DOM. Okay, because I'm still okay. Okay, no problem. We'll learn that right now. So what we are trying to refers to the document object model is whenever we write this HTML code and with the CSS styling or whenever we do, this whole will be taken as a document and it will be considered as an object. Okay, so whenever we have most of the things that are in the JavaScript are considered as object. So whenever we go over this and these will be considered taken under the JavaScript this whole thing will be considered as a document. Okay, so I'll move back to the browser for here for a bit and take out this debugger, comment this and refresh the code and come again soon. Then we'll be moving to console and I'll just put in a document over here. Okay, and then state print. Okay, so here we could see right now it's reference into the document saying that the whole document if you let me say I have some other things. Okay, so not only a paragraph, I have some other information. Let's say I have one more paragraph. Okay, and one more paragraph. In the paragraph as such, and I have style. Okay, and I have this, and whenever I put a document over here, okay, I think I've even attached the CSS for this. Yeah. So let me just attach that too. Okay, so as soon as I print the document over here, so we could see the whole tree would be taken. So document we could say here it will be imagine it in a form of tree structure. Okay, in the DSC you would have come across tree structure and we could see as I hover over this document we could see the whole HTML code. If I've written any other code even that will be taken considered over here. but the whole page will be hover. Okay, when for example when I take this element selector and we are going over this whole body, we could see like it's referenced into the same thing, it's whole HTML. And if I dig down deeper and if I have any title, we can't hover and see the title. Let me just go. So if I take any particular and don't do this. Okay, IDs are supposed to be unique. It's not a good practice. So I'll just put file. Okay, okay. Always make sure your IDs are unique. So moving back, I think, here we could see whenever I try to put the document over here, I try to print this, and you could see each of them having their own, even as you have it, each of the element are getting highlighted. So we could see what would happen in this tree structure. The whole HTML would be the parent, and inside that you would have two children. That is, one is body, and another one is head, and another one is body. And inside that we would be having whatever the tags we created, and as such, and this whole thing will be created. And um, if we move back to sources, and if I could show you sources and open a next.html, open file, next.html, and the same thing you could see it on even over here, and I'll open the other file too, script.js. And if I try to access, okay, right now I'll just try to access any of the element. Okay, document, okay, document dot, and we could see we could if you want to append child, or other bodies, we could let's say I want to take document dot body, and I try to print that, and we could see inside the body whatever the elements are there, even they will be taken out. And let's say I want to take a document dot body, and inside that I'll be taking the, yeah, and we have undefined over here. And whenever I try to dig deeper, and we could get all the whatever I want to refer over here. And document dot head, and we have inside that, okay, my bad, document, let me clear this, document dot head, and I try to print this, and we could see inside the head we have two elements, right? One is meta, and we have other one is title, and all those other characters. So whenever what happens is in the document we are referencing to the whole HTML page that is out here, and it will be considered as a document, and it will be also taken care as one of the objects. So if I take, I'll just take JavaScript and I'll assign it. So the whole document, yeah, document. Okay, and if you guys can see over here, let me, okay, so I'll just go over here, open this. Okay, so we could see what happens is here, we have other kind of information that we could ask. And if you guys get time, please do go with this MDN docs too, and what they're trying to refer over here. And here they're also showing how to access this. And we also saw when we call the window, it is referencing to this object, the whole global context. And regarding that, we could access anything that we want. And so I save this, and if I try to access that, just refresh the page. Just document. The I think I need to take out this. Save this and refresh it. And if I try to execute, we could see the same thing is being assigned. And I already told you that in JavaScript, variables have very they're quite powerful, and you could assign anything that want. We assign a function. You could also here it will be considered as a object. So let me just print this. Okay, console. console dot rectangle document body, then you can see, just refresh this page. Uh, okay, we could see the same thing is getting printed. And if I try to get the access type of, okay, and we try to refresh it, we could see it is an object. I told you, right? So it will be created an object, and it will be coming and referenced as an object. And through this we could, like, if we want to access any elements, we would be doing that over here. Okay, so let's say I want to take access the body. Okay, right now I'll be having the body over here and I'll be trying to access that. Then I'll be able to access the body element. And you could see that, the body itself has many things, like, there's other attributes, like, you don't worry about these things, but let me just concentrate on this thing. Okay, so we have a children out here, right? So we could see, like, in the body has, like, as children, so we could, like, the paragraphs and whatever thing there, and we have a script, and these things will be also listed, like, so they will be considered as, like, and there's also something called as parent. And you could, right now, if you go through that, and we could also see the last child, last element, and, like, you could access those things. And if we go over inner HTML and inner text or other information, we could also see that. Okay, and let me just okay, let me just print this so you guys are understanding. Okay, let me probably pick a para or something. Okay. Okay. So here we could see that again that it will be undefined. Let me just probably let me just do HTML stop downs. I think I got the syntax wrong or something. Let me just, okay. I think I have something wrong. Let me just go back to the code and reference it once again. I got something wrong. Okay. Okay. So we have the body out here, and I'm trying to access one of the children's. Why am I not able to get it? It's an array, and I'm trying to access the zero. Then say two. Okay. Just give me 1 second. I don't know what's wrong. Let me just go the code and see. Okay. Sorry, I got the code. Like, I know what mistake I did. My bad. It was a silly mistake. So body dot children. So yeah, children, children, not child nodes. Children, children, of zero. Okay. So now it should work properly. So my bad, guys. Okay, so what was happening over here is, I'll repeat once again. So what was the mistake that I committed right now? Okay, so what I was trying to do over here is, we saw, like, as soon as I took this off, okay, and I tried to do zero out here. So the mistake that I did was, we saw that, like, whenever I tried to print this, it was undefined, right? So what was happening over here is, I can't directly access that thing. So I can't just go and access document. So what was happening is, these things that we saw over here, and whenever I try to print the, document, uh, document, okay, not picture, document, document of code. So what I did, the main mistake that I did over here was, whenever I try to access it, right? So these are children, so I try to access them directly, but I'm not supposed to do that. What I'm supposed to do is, supposed to put a dot over here, and we even saw that, like, dot over here, and then I should call the children. So because they are child nodes, and by that I should access one of those elements. Then I'll be able to excuse me. Okay, so right now we saw that, like, now I am able to access the first paragraph. Okay, just so you guys are understanding the difference. So let me just say that this is para one, para two, and let's just take this is three, and this is four, and this is five, and this is six. Okay, so you guys are knowing the difference where I'm trying to access. Okay, so here we could see, like, whenever I try to access it. Okay, let me just refresh the page. So we could see, like, whenever I try to access it, or whenever I say I'm right now I'm trying to log it, right? So I'm trying to log the children itself. So when I'm trying to log this, we could see that P message was taken, and we could see the access, and we could also see that we don't have any children, right? So we here because paragraph doesn't have any more further, you can't drill down anymore, and it is already what do you call it as leaf node, so it won't be having anything like that. But whereas if I take this off and I stop at the body itself, let's say I stop at the body itself, then we could see a different state in place that if I try to access this. So if I put children out here, and I could access any element that I want. I could take a two or three. We could print any of that we want. Okay, let's just say that I want to, you guys said DOM manipulation, right? So what I'm trying to do here is I'm trying to uh, so let me just right now I'll be assigning this thing. Okay, so I'll be taking some para element, and we'll be having this code, the same thing. And inside that, what I'll be doing is I'll be taking the para element dot inner HTML. We have that over here. Inner HTML is equals to, and we have let's just say roses. Right. So we'll refresh this page, and you guys, if you are observing, you saw that, I'll just comment this code, and we'll go over the same thing again. Okay, I'll just refresh this page, and I think hopefully let me just minimize the screen a bit so you guys are seeing the difference. Okay, and we could see, I have many paragraphs as such, and we could see, as soon as I do this, right now what I've done is over here is I've taken the document dot body. So we are taking all this. Just imagine as if you're trying to access each of the parent, this is in a tree. Okay, so the whole HTML code is in, one tree, that is document, and it will start from HTML, and it has two child nodes. One is the head, and another one is body. And right now we have gone a little bit deeper into the body, where we are taking the if I'm right, second. So it starts from zero. So we are taking from here. So the sky three. We are trying to access that. Okay, I'll just walk through the code too. Here we have taken the whole document, and in the document I have taken the body, and that I'm trying to access the children of the body. And we could see that, in the children of the body, we could see the parament is trying to get the second child. So 0, 1, 2, that is sky. And let me go to the console, and I'll just print this element. Okay, or log it, you could say. Just take this, and I'll click the enter. Okay, so we could see, I'm trying to access the after para one, para two, para three is being accessed, and we could see, the that is accessing, or as soon as we keep the over here, the context of whatever is being highlighted. And whenever I have this inner text, inner HTML, it will be changing to we could see that, the roses are red, from sky to it changes to roses are red. Okay, so there's one more method that is called as inner text. Yeah, inner text. I think I got the syntax right. Let me just check it one second. Okay, yeah, I got this syntax. So okay, so you guys would ask, what is the primary difference between, in text and inner HTML? They're quite similar, quite not that complicated. It's quite simple. So with inner HTML, you could not only provide the roses are red, you could make it even. You could provide some HTML code itself. Let me just make it strong. So if you guys don't know what strong does, it just makes the letters more capital and bold. You could see, the font size has been increased. It changed to strong, and they do the same thing with let's just say text. When I refresh this, okay, you could see, the same thing is not happening. The whole text itself is going and sitting there, and the whole thing is happening. And this is only not only used for that. We could even not only assign something. Let's just say I have this, right. So I have let's say I want to know the inner text or something, inner text of some element. Okay, and we will take the same thing. We'll take the para element, and I'll get the inner text. Okay, I'll try to access it, and I'll try to log the inner text of some. Okay, so I'll just log it right here. I think it's not a method. Okay, so we could see like whenever I typed in a text, we could see like only this has have like the whole text is being printed. And let's just say that I'm going to take this away for now. I'm going to take away this strong. Okay, I'm not going to take away this strong. Let me do the other way around. I'm going to go here and I'm going to change this into an HTML. HTML. Okay. Okay, so we could see the same things happening, right? So, and I'm trying to gather like in a text, and it's not happening. Okay, and I think I made it a method again. My bad. Okay, so I'm trying to access this, and we could see it is just it is just giving the text. But whereas if I change this to, I'm going to change this to inner HTML again. Okay, and we could see like the whole strong and whatever is in there, the whole thing has been accessed, and we could also do the same thing with the body and whenever we try to access. Okay, so let's say that I might have to dig a little bit more in. So, okay, imagine this: I have a division right here. Okay, and I have a division right here. Division, and inside the division, I have something. And I have a paragraph here. Paragraph here. Para inside the division. Para inside the division. Okay. I'll refresh it and we could see. Let me just put it all the way in so you guys are not getting confused with other information. I'll try to get this. So here we could see, and we could also like understand that like as soon as I'm trying to print this, the same thing is happening. Okay, let me just move back to the script over here, and I'll take out the body, and we'll get back. We'll just print the uh, Let me just say this is a body element. Uh, and it's not okay. So I'm trying to access something. Let me just comment this code. Comment this code. Okay. Comment this code too, and then refresh the page. I have no reference away here. Okay. Okay. Get over here. Then I will try to do the body element. Body element, and I'm gonna click. So here we could see like if I try to take this in object and I try to print the children, when I try to let me just log it. This body element. If we take the body element, we could see like the whole body is being taken place and the division is being created, and like division acts as its children, and like it will be created. And if you move back to the sources, and let me just put a debugger over here, and so we could see how the context is taking place, and like we'll go with the script and like the scope and other information. Okay, and I'll refresh the page and we'll execute it one by line. Okay, and you could see the same things happening. So here again, you could see like normal like JavaScript code that we saw earlier. Each of this is getting assigned, and we could see like the body is getting undefined. Okay, something happened. I think we came across undefined code. Okay, so just got the whole code got executed, and we could see like the same. Let me just refresh the page. And go to a step where the is getting assigned. Okay, so here we could see. Okay, I think one of you guys had some question or something. Okay, let me get it. Let me scroll this a little bit up. Okay, and let's move to the left. And here you could see like let me see if I can access it a little bit more. Okay, I think now it's better. Okay, so whenever I'm trying to create this like, document of the code, like the whole body has been created, and we could see like the base URI. Don't worry about all those things right now, but we could see like if we move back to like first child element. Okay, so we could there's first child, last child, and all of these things will be like accessing more, and you're trying to like here you'll be having last child, and like let's say that like I'm trying to get this into in the body instead of body. I'll try to okay. I'll move one step further and execute, and we'll be having the document of the body, and then we have the body element. Let me just assign a value to the body element too. So we could see like as soon as I get to the body element, the same thing is happening. I'll move the children over here. Okay, here we could see all the children that are taking place, and like you could see the division has stopped by itself. Okay, we could see the division is just stopped here, and it is just the it belongs to children, and we can't access the paragraph that is inside. We could see like there's a paragraph inside the tag, and we can't access that yet. But when I do dot children, and I think para was the last one, so I think there was what, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I think it was the sixth one. So let me just try to get the same thing. Okay. And okay, so we could see the division. Okay, and we'll move back to the divisions. Okay, okay. Here you could see even the division has only one child, right? That is paragraph. Okay, and here we could see again like in the whole thing, and we if we want to access that, we have to again click children. Then we have to go to the same thing, and we have to go zero. Then again we'll be taking this, and we'll be accessing it again. We could see the same thing happen in place. And now with the body element we have seen that paragraph, and like here we are going all the way again, and if you want to access or if you want to change anything, and if you want, let's say I want to change the inner HTML or something like this so that you could understand inner HTML, and I'll assign it to something para inside modify. Okay, and I'll save this. I will take out the debugger. We'll refresh the page, and we could see modified. Okay, so the same thing's happening. So whenever we try to this is what is called as DOM manipulation, and one of the things we could see, like if I have many elements, like right now we have only one per division, and like six paragraphs, so this is very small HTML code. And when we have like when we go deeper inside, it won't just stop there. It will be like it will be further going apart. Like we will be having we need to access each of the element by other ways, and doing this thing is repetitive, like body, children, and trying to access them won't be a efficient method. Hence we have other, like we can like whenever we have the body, there's other methods that we can go over, like document dot get element by id, or get element by tag name, or get element by query selectors. We'll go over all those things in the further classes. But right now, now you guys, I think you guys got an idea or gist of how what is like DOM, and what like what do I mean by DOM manipulation, right? You guys got the gist of it. Yeah, did you guys understand what, like why do we need DOM and all this? Okay. So further in the classes, we'll be going in depth, like other methods. We'll be exploring that, and we'll be seeing like what are the ways we could do it. Okay. So yeah, and that's it for the class today. If you guys have any queries, you could stay, or if you don't have any queries, you're free to exit the meeting.